years, Leil Nishmas, Elimelech ben Levi, Osher Shmuel Chaim and Ephraim Esther Basara, Osher ben Yosef, Yitzchak Isaac, Tzvi ben Shraga, Mira bas Yaakov, Tzvi Dov ben Chaim Pesach, Yitzchak ben Sarah, Devorah bas Yitzchak, Leah bas Simcha, Abraham ben Mordechai David, Reuben ben Shmuel, Chana Golda bas Yisrael, Chaim ben Fega, Yaakov ben Yitzchak, Matalea bas Elio, Mordechai Netzach, ben Rivka, Yeshua ben Shmuel, Shoshana bat Clara, Batya Esther bat Benyamin, Asha Milana bas Esther, Zalman Leib ben Moshe, Amichai ben Yaakov, Leila Nishmatam. Today we're speaking about, that's you say to yourself, for Shalem you say to yourself. Today we're speaking about Chanukah and current events. Chanukah and current events. It's interesting that in last week's Parsha Vayeshev, Rashi said, here's Chanukah, that Yosef had to spend 2 extra years in jail because he relied on the butler. Problem. We know the message of Chanukah for us is God only helps those who help themselves.
That's right.
The Nes happened only after the Maccabees began to fight against all odds. God only helps those who help themselves. So the question is, why does Rashi say that the butler was, that Yosef was punished for relying on the butler, when we know that God works through human agents? Right? This world is a partnership between man and God. And we know that Parsha of the week always speaks to current events. So Rashi makes an amazing point. Rashi quotes a pasuk in Tilim, Ashrei HaGever, Asher Sam Hashem Iftacho. Fortunate the person that makes Hashem his trust. V'lo yipon el Rahavim, he doesn't rely on Rahavim. Says Rashi, V'lo yibotach al Mitzrim. Amazing Rashi. If the butler was a Filipino, here's Ephraim, or from South Africa, no problem. God only helps those who help themselves. But you're going to rely on a Mitzri, says Rashi? You expect gratitude from an Arab? Look how profound Rashi is. Mitzri. You're making goodwill gestures, you expect gratitude from the Arab world? That's worse than doing nothing. Yesterday our president went to President Obama with some more goodwill gestures and concessions. You should have learned the Parsha of the week. President Rivlin, hello. You're relying on the Arabs to show gratitude to you. That's worse than doing nothing. And therefore Yosef HaTzadik was punished. You should have looked for a Filipino or a Puerto Rican. But a Mitzri Ephraim, that's worse than, that's actually worse than doing nothing. And therefore he was punished. You get this? Yes?
So, what is it in the psyche of some that expects something that's impossible to occur?
We're going to talk about that. You read my mind. We're going to talk about it, Chanukah, because we say that the Parsha of the week, it always speaks to current events, right?
And also they say they're not all like that.
The Yosef recognized, but the brothers didn't recognize him. They didn't recognize him. They didn't recognize him.
You got a question here.
I know, and I'm in the middle of giving an answer. Right?
No, he's...
This guy, they think he's Tutankhamun, right? He asked them about God. He says, I fear God. Then he says, your old father, your old father, your old father. Then he sits them. When he seats them, he goes according to their births.
I know.
Reuben, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, and they're shocked. Keeps asking about the old father. He mentions, he says, I fear God, this pagan. And then he sits them in the order of their birth. It doesn't set off any warning bells. Huh? Don't confuse me with the facts. My mind is made up. There are none so blind who will not see. Yosef is in front of them, but they just don't get it. They're so blinded by their previous mindset. Don't confuse it with the facts. Right? The same idea we have now. There's a mindset, a peace process, the fantasy of the two-state solution. Don't confuse me with the facts. Yosef is standing in front of them. All the signals are there, and the bell doesn't go off. Huh? They're none so blind as the one who will not see. They just don't get it. They're blinded by their mindset, the concept. Don't confuse me with the facts. So we see the parasha of the week. After all that's happening, they still have this two-state solution, this juke barosh, like the brothers.
Land for peace.
Yosef is in front of them, and they just couldn't what? They just don't get it. Some people just don't get it. But anyway, speaking about Chanukah and current events, according to Kabbalah, the temple menorah is a symbol of the 7 branches of science. You hear this, Ephraim? The Maral and the Yonis Eibishitz, the great Mekubalim, they say that the 7 branches of menorah somehow represents the 7 branches of science. Why? The Rambam in Hilchot Yesod Torah tells us when you study nature and you know Chachmas Hashem, you become madly in love with the one above. How do you love God? How does a person love God? Says the Rambam, you really cannot love God unless you what? Study the Chachmas Hashem, which is what? The natural science, he says. So one, according to the Rambam, you saw that Torah chapter 2, in order to love God properly, Yehuda, you know this, you're obligated to study in nature. And only when a person has really studied the natural sciences, only then, says Rambam, can he truly be in love with what? The one above. You hear this? And the Rambam in Moreh Nevuchim mentions this. There's a pasuk in Parshas Kisisa. Moshe Rabbeinu says, God, show me your glory. And God says to him, Ani avir kol tuvi. I'm going to make all of my goodness pass in front of you. Ritot achorai. And you will see achorai. What does achorai mean? My back. What's he telling him? And what do we need to know about it? Says the Rambam Moreh Nevuchim, what he's telling him here, if you want to really know God, to know Him is to love Him. It's only indirect way. When you study the incredible Tov, God says, Ani avir kol tuvi. I'll make all my goodness pass by you. Says the Rambam in Moreh Nevuchim, when you study the incredible goodness of nature, that's how you come to what? To know and love God. You hear what God was telling Moses? It was only Moses, it wouldn't be in the Torah. If you want to know all of God's goodness, it's a chorai. That's only what? Indirect way. How's that? By studying the incredible goodness and wisdom that's contained where? In nature, you fall madly in love with the one above. Now, and therefore, the Maral, the great Kabbalist, I should say that you must study the 7 sciences, which are represented by what? The 7 branches of the menorah. And Rabbeinu Bachai, the great Mekubal, says that the menorah represents the 7 sciences, which are, number 1, Chachmas Hagyon, the study of languages. Number 2, Chachmas HaMispar, the study of mathematics. Chachmas HaTeva, the study of physics and chemistry. You hear this? Chachmas HaMidot, I hope you're counting. Study of geometry. Chachmas HaNigun, this is Rabbeinu Bachai. Chachmas HaNigun, the study of what?
Music.
Chachmas HaTchona, the study of what? Astronomy. And finally, the middle stem, the menorah. The picture's going around here somewhere. Hope you give them back to me. The pictures are going around here. You have the pictures? You see the menorah? 3 and 3. And the middle stem, the seventh branch of science, Achrein Chavid, is what? Chochmas Elohut. The wisdom of God, which is Torah. Achron Chavid. That's why Jello comes at the end of a dessert, right? A dessert comes at the end of a meal, right, Moshe? Saving the best for last. The donuts come when? The donuts come at the end of the meal. Achron Chavid. Chochmas Elohut. What is Chochmas? The wisdom of God, which is Torah. That's the central shaft where all the other three what? Connect. So it says Rabbeinu Bechai, what holds all the other sciences together? What's the base? Chochmat Hashem. The Iker is Yidiyat Hashem. They all come from the central stem, if you see the picture there, and they all branch out. But the Iker, the main branch is Chochmas Elohus, Yidiyas Hashem, and all others. The root, the central shaft is Chochmas Hashem. That holds all the other sciences, wisdom together. And therefore the Mishnah says in the Masechta Avot, Kol sheyirat achet kodemes v'chochmasoi. If a person's fear of God comes before his chochmah, chochmasoi kodemes, then his wisdom will last. But if not, ein chochmasoi miskayemes. If your wisdom, your secular knowledge lacks a moral base, if it's not anchored in what? In Chochmas Elokim, it's all what? Goes for naught. Our Chochmah can endure and have value only if it's rooted what? In Chochmas Hashem. That's a pasuk in Psalm 111. Reishis Chochmah, the chief of all wisdom is what? Yirat Hashem. All the other wisdoms have to be anchored and based on what? Yirat Hashem. But if Chochmah is an end to itself, the Mishnah in Avos says, David, im ein yirah, ein chochmah. What does that mean? Im ein yirah, if there's no fear of God, ein chochmah.
No smarts.
Then the smarts are worth what?
Nothing.
If wisdom is not attached to the fear of God, it leads to what? A lack of moral foundation. That's Hellenism. Hellenism said, Chanukah, we can detach secular wisdom from the knowledge of God. Right? We don't have to attach the menorah. We can detach the branches of science from the mainstay of what? Of Yirat Hashem. Not attached to Yirat Hashem. And therefore Hellenism was based on what? On immorality, sexual perverts. Genesis 1 says, V'choshech al panei tahom, darkness on the face of the deep, says the Medrash Rabbah, Zeh malchus yavon. The kingdom of Greece is darkness. Darkness? The Greeks were very enlightened, Avi. How could the Medrash say, V'choshech al panei tahom in Genesis 1? Darkness is represented by Malchus Yavan. We know the Greeks were very enlightened, Aryeh, weren't they? Aristotle, Socrates, and Homer. They were very enlightened, but they were perverts. Read, you can Google them. All of them were moral degenerates. Beryl, how could it be? Socrates, Aristotle, Homer, the symbol of secular wisdom. They were all moral degenerates. They molested little boys. How could it be, Aryeh? Because they detached the menorah's branches from the central shaft of what? Of Yirat Hashem. Their chokhmah was detached from Chochmas Hashem. So Chanukah teaches that or is only enlightening when it's attached to what?
Good base.
To God's light. The symbol of Chanukah, or Lagoyim. Current events in Chanukah, Elisheva, just amazing. I couldn't make this up. Current events in Chanukah, Chanoch. This week, the Swedish foreign minister, this week, is very concerned that Israel is killing poor, innocent, savage terrorists who tried to murder us. Here, we're executing savage terrorists. The Swedish foreign minister is very concerned.
It's also disproportionate.
Sweden, you can Google this, is engulfed in darkness for 7 months a year. The country of Sweden is engulfed in darkness 7 months a year. Coinky dinky? They're engulfed in darkness.
Yeah.
Not just physical darkness, but spiritual darkness. They can't tell the difference between right and wrong. We're protecting ourselves from savage terrorists. And we are being put down. You can't tell the difference between right and wrong. Sweden is engulfed in physical darkness for 7 months a year. That's a symbol for their spiritual darkness. David, the entire world is engulfed in spiritual darkness. Chanukah, the Pach Shemen, the little beacon of light, the eternal flame of Am Yisrael, despite John Balkari and the abomination and the Swedish foreign minister, they are submerged in darkness in more ways than one. The physical darkness, Sweden, 7 months a year. The physical darkness is a symbol of their spiritual darkness. The Jewish people, Elisheva, the small eternal flame. We're comforted by being a small island of good in the vast sea of evil. David, small island of good in the vast sea of evil. And therefore the Haftorah of Chanukah in Zechariah, Lo b'chayil, v'lo b'koach, ki im beruchi, Omar Hashem. This week's Haftorah, Zechariah, Beryl, not by mighty armies, not by power, but by my spirit, says Hashem. Now Moshe Feinstein, Zechariah, applied this verse to the 6-day war. You know that, Avi? He applied this verse, just like the stunning Chanukah military victory. V'rabim biyad mi'atim, the many in the hands of the weak, the many in the hands of the few. Rabbi Moshe applied this to the 6-day war. The little tiny little IDF against 22 Arab armies. He said it's a Chanukah miracle all over again. And therefore, in the Ala Nissim, what do we say? Bayomim aheim, gam bezman hazeh. Ephraim. Bayomim aheim, gam bezman hazeh. The Haftorah, not by mighty armies, says Zechariah. The Ruach Hashem, the Maccabee spirit of the IDF, the 6-day war was a stunning military victory, perhaps even greater, buddy, than what? Than the Nes Chanukah. I'm not saying that. Ikras Moshe says. He says perhaps the 6-day war was a greater, stunning military victory, Nes, even greater than what? Than what? Than Nes Chanukah. You know that?
What about all the other wars? War of liberation?
He spoke about the 6-day war. You're right about the war of revelation also. Right? But this is the idea of Chanukah. The Talmud says in the Masechta Shabbat that the candles have to burn, buddy, at shetichle regel min hashuk, until the feet stop walking in the marketplace. That's very strange. Just say, Aryeh, until people stop walking in the street. At shetichle regel min hashuk. It's a bizarre language, Yehuda. Until the regel stops walking in the shuk, that's how long the Chanukah candles have to burn. Why not just say until people stop walking, no longer pursue Nisa? So to answer this question, we're going to have to ask another one. The Jew answers the question with,
Another question?
why not? Why is Chanukah 8 days? The miracle is only 7, Chanoch. There was enough oil to burn what? 1 day. So the miracle is only what, Shoshana?
You're not sure if there was enough oil to burn.
Yeah, the Gemara in Shabbos, page 23, get real. The Pak Shemen was enough for 1 day. So the miracle is only what, Avi? 7 days. Why have an 8-day Chag for a 7-day miracle? An extra day to eat latkes?
And enough for 1 day.
It wasn't enough for 1 day. So the miracle is only 7 days. So why you have to celebrate 8 days?
Higher cholesterol. Higher cholesterol.
More donuts.
Remes to Bris Milah.
Good. Good. But a deeper meaning. 7 days that the miracle, that the little pitcher of oil burned, instead of 1 day burned for 7. But 1 day, Chanoch,
They had oil.
that oil burns. Who says oil burns and not vinegar? Who made up those rules? You know Chanina Mendoza's daughter, are you? Remember? She made a boo-boo. Instead of putting in oil Friday night, she what? She put vinegar. And she came crying to her Abba. He said, calm down, my daughter. The one who proclaimed that oil would burn can also say what?
Vinegar can burn.
And guess what? The vinegar burn. Burn, baby, burn. 1 day, dedicate that oil burns and not vinegar. We take it for granted. Tichle regel min ashuk. Get rid of the hergel. What does hergel mean?
Regular.
Routine. There is no such thing as regel. Hergel. The English word regular. Even the very fact that oil burns and not vinegar, that itself is what? An ace. 1 day dedicated for what we call natural. There is no natural. The word hateva in Hebrew, nature is Elokim. Same gematria. Ephraim Kwinkadinki. How do you say God in Hebrew? Elokim. Same gematria as what? Hateva, which means what? Nature. Same gematria.
Right.
1 day dedicate that there ain't no such thing as nature. It's all God. We take it for granted. That's the juke in the head, the regel. Get rid of the hergel. There's nothing routine. It's all miracles. And therefore there's an extra day of Chanukah just to focus on the routine. That what we think is routine is really not routine. It just appears that way, Chanukah, because what? Regular. You know. In fact, the Ramban says, what's a greater miracle? Splitting of the Red Sea or sunrise, sunset? You'd ask me, I say splitting of the Red Sea. Ramban says, no. Splitting of the Red Sea only happened once in 6,000 years. But sunrise, sunset, happens every day. Can you imagine the sun would rise and set once in 100 years, Avi? You imagine the excitement, CNN and Fox News. The sun is setting. See a sunset? The sun is rising, Beryl. But it happens every day. So the excitement wears off. That's our fault, says Nachmanides. Once in 100 years the sun would rise or set. Can you imagine the excitement? Fox News would be there, no? And even CNN. But it happens every day, so the excitement wears off. But it shouldn't. Chanukah reminds me, 1 day, dedicate to the excitement of a sunrise and a sunset. The very fact, Chanukah, that oil burns and not vinegar. To sensitize us to God's wonderful miracles that happen all the time. To get the juke of hergel out of our head, Aryeh. Tichle regel min ashuk. The routine. Powerful message. Huh?
Yes.
Why Chanukah is such a beloved mitzvah. Why it's such a precious mitzvah. Right? Get rid of the regel. Everything is miracles. God is doing all the time. We have to become more sensitive, more focused. So 1 day, Chanukah is an extra day, Beryl. It's an extra day. Because only 7 days the miracle was. Focus on the routine, on the hergel. And there is no, the Rambam calls it mitzvah chavivat ma'od. Chanukah. He doesn't mention that by any other mitzvah. He said it's the most precious mitzvah of all. Because the Rambam, he doesn't use that by any other mitzvah, not even a Torah mitzvah. He says, Chanukah mitzvah chaviva ad ma'od, the most precious mitzvah. He doesn't use it even by a Torah mitzvah. But why? Because this is the idea. To clean the glasses, you know? To have the proper hashkafa. That whatever God does is a miracle. There is no hergel. Let's look at the parsha. Now, Parshas Miketz always comes Chanukah time. Always comes Chanukah time. So there must be a very strong connection between Chanukah and what? And Parshas Miketz. Right, Ephraim? It always comes. Miketz. It wasn't Miketz. Unkala says it was at the end. The end of 2 years, and Paroi dreamed. David, you sitting down for this one? I need to know, was at the end of 2 years, Paroi dreamed. The Torah is not a history book. The Torah is God's authorized manual for living in the year 2015. Says the Zohar, Miketz, Aryeh, I'll be writing it. Miketz is Rosh Tevot. How do you say that in English? FBI, CIA, IRS.
Abbreviation.
Miketz. At the end of every life, Cholem. At the end of every life, Cholem. What does Cholem mean? The next one. Life is but a dream. Da la 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 la. They got that from us. The Zohar says, when your life is over, it'll seem like a Cholem.
Snap out of a dream.
Life is a dream. The Zohar says when you die, the first sensation is you wake up from a dream. Some people, it's a nightmare. He miketz upare cholem. Para is the patsy. At the end of life, it's a cholem. You feel, Shoshana, that what? That you dreamt. Sounds like a Twilight Zone. They got everything from us, Aryeh. Life is but a dream. La 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 la. And when you wake up from the dream, Miketz. Miketz means the end, but Miketz is also an acronym. The Talmud tells us that when we die, we give an accounting to God. But the trial begins with 3 main questions. Let's study them, and we say, Nechama, we're prepared for 120. Not in a hurry to get there, but after 120, we have to rehearse. What's it called? Study cram? Before tax season. Miketz. Para cholem. At the end of life, it's a cholem. It's like a dream. But before the trial begins, says the Zohar, God asks us 3 questions, which the acronym is Miketz. Mem stands for Masa Umatan Be'emunah. Were you honest in your business dealings? Mem, Masa Matan Be'emunah. Kuf stands for Kavata Itim La Torah. Did you come to the Asper Yeshiva every day? Or to the OU every day? Did you set aside every day to study Torah? And Tzadi stands for Tzipiti Yeshua. Avi, you writing this down? This is a test after 120. Tzipiti Yeshua. Did you anticipate and long and hope for the final redemption? Those are the 3 questions that... And then the trial begins. Let's study that. Men, what? It's a good thing you came today. You see that? Good thing.
What about the question of how did you treat your spouse?
Pruvu. Okay? You're right, that's the Talmud. But I'm talking the Zohar. Don't mix me up. The Talmud says pruvu. Okay? But I'm speaking with the Zohar now. Miketz, mem, masa, matan, be'emunah. Buddy, you're honest in business. You are. You can say yes. Kuf Kovata itim la Torah. Did you set aside every day, Beryl, to study Torah? Tzadi tzipiti liyeshua. Did you anticipate, hope, and long for the final redemption? Why is that so important, guys? Why must I anticipate and hope and wishing and hoping for the final redemption? Why is that so important? I'll tell you why. Want to know, right? For 2,000, can you imagine if your parent has been homeless for 2,000 years? Ephraim, how would you feel? Your father and your mother have been homeless for 2,000 years. How would you feel?
Terrible.
Our parent, Kavayochel, God has been homeless for 2,000 years, Beryl. So we want the final redemption, not to stick it to the Goyim, not to get even with Balkari. We want our parent to have a home. God says he's homeless. Buvasa, page 8. In Megillah, page 29. God says he's homeless. Moshe, how do you feel your parent is homeless? Tipiti Yeshua. I want my beloved parent to have a house on the Temple Mount. That's why we want the final redemption. Not to get even with John Balkari. Buddy, 3 questions, now we know what they are, and so we can study them. Mikates. When the dream is over, you get the Mikates. Okay? Masha matan b'yamuna, kuf kovat itim la Torah, tzadi sipiti liyeshua. Interesting. Paro had a dream, Omed alayor. He's standing on the river of the Nile. That's what it says. What do you mean standing on the river? Standing on the Nile?
At the riverbank.
No, not riverbank. It says Omed Halayor.
On the river.
They got J.C. Penney, walk on water. That's where J.C. Penney comes from.
All right.
It says Omed Halayor. It says the Medrash Rabbah something incredible. Nile, Yiddish Aryeh. Egypt had many Getchkes, but the main Getchke was the Nile River. Paganism is all about they stand on their God. Paganism, their gods are there to serve them. Paro was standing al hayor. He was standing on his Getchka. The idols are there to serve me. Me, what's in it for me? Paro stands on his God. What does it say about Yaakov Avinu? God was standing, Nitzav Alav. Judaism was a revolution at the time. Up until then, paganism is based on the gods are there to serve me. So he's standing on his God. Yaakov Avinu, the opposite. He saw God what? Nitzav Alav. God is there to serve. I'm not there that he should serve me. I'm here that what? That I should serve him. Not the Paroi mentality. Their gods are there. They stand above their gods. We have God above us. On Pesach, we became free to be slaves, Avi. You know that?
Hashem.
Slaves to be, we were free to be slaves of Hashem. The greatest achievement is to be an Evet Hashem. Not that God should serve me. Like an ATM machine. I'm there, what? To serve Him. I'm there to serve Him. Powerful message. Paro stands on his God. Yaakov Avinu saw God. Nitzav Olav above him. What? Ask not what the God can do for you, what you can do for your God. Oh, I like that. Huh? Pretty interesting, right?
You can use it.
What?
You can use it.
Right? Now, Paroi, this pagan, after Yosef HaTzadik interprets the dream, he says, is anyone in the entire kingdom that has the Spirit of God in him? How could this Paroi mention God? This pagan. All of a sudden he sees God. Even Paroi saw the hand of God. How else can a foreign slave, Joseph was a foreign slave in the dungeon, become what? The leader. The viceroy of Egypt. A slave. In our own time. Obama, a nobody. A nobody. He wasn't even born in the United States. His grandmother swears he was born in Kenya. He says she's senile. But I think the senile is on the other foot. His grandmother swears that he was born in Kenya. It took him 6 years to come up with a forged birth certificate.
He will not say
He was a drug addict, a nobody.
He will not say radical Islam.
Right?
He will not say that word.
Because he's Muslim.
It's
Because
only
he's a
God
Muslim.
to do that. It's not
He's a
normal.
Muslim.
A lowlife like him to become president of the United States.
Because the people.
It's
voted
only
for him.
HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
God.
God is orchestrating this to get the Yidden from Borough Park to make Aliyah.
That's it. That's
So they
it.
put a lowlife like that in office
There you
against all rationality. Makes no sense, buddy. Totally irrational to get them to make Aliyah.
They vote for him 78%.
Not in Borough Park.
Yes.
No.
And not only that,
was 90%.
No.
right.
Oh, because of the food stamps. Food stamps.
But it makes sense, Rabbi.
Right?
It makes sense.
Yes.
If you believe in pluralism, not monotheism.
And pluralism, yeah?
Yeah.
Because you have multiple gods, plural.
Plural. Uh-huh.
Diverse, multicultural.
Uh-huh. Mhm. Right?
How could the slaves have seen God? Moshe Rabbeinu didn't even see God, and
Yeah.
he got everything from him. He didn't even see God, so how can the slaves have seen God?
Which slaves?
We were talking about the slaves. Just now.
Paro, he says, he sees the hand of God. How else could
How
he?
can you see the hand of God?
He saw it. Uh-huh.
Moshe Rabbeinu didn't even see the hand of God.
I don't know. Anyway,
Huh?
He saw the hand of God, not the back,
didn't see. He saw how
not the front.
it's not normal how a low-life slave can become a leader of Egypt. It has to be all God's manipulation. The grand puppeteer, the great puppeteer.
Yeah.
That even a pagan could see that it's only possible because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is what? Pulling the strings. That only HaKadosh Baruch Hu is what? Is pulling the strings. There's an amazing Rabbeinu Bechai in this week's Parashah, Miketz. 10 times the brothers are called Ha'anoshim. They should be called Achei Yosef. They should be called Bnei Yaakov. But 10 times in this week's Parsha, they're called Ha'anoshim, with an extra Hey Ayidiyah. These special men. Why not the brothers of Yosef, the sons of Jacob? 10 times they're called Ha'anoshim, with an extra Hey. So the Rabbeinu Bechai, that's how the Zohar knows that the 10 martyrs, the 10 special martyrs, were the reincarnated souls of the 10 brothers of Yosef. Therefore, it doesn't say Achei Yosef, Bnei Yaakov, Ha'anoshim, 10 times, with an extra Hey, that they became these very VIP people, the 10 sages of Israel, Ha'anoshim, the great people. That they were the reincarnated souls of Yosef brothers, because the law is if you sell a brother into slavery, you chayiv mitah. The brothers were never punished, but centuries later, the Zohar says they got recycled as what? As the 10 great men, Ha'anoshim, and they paid the ultimate price. God has a long memory. Nobody gets away with anything.
That's for
You
sure.
can pay me now,
Pay me later.
or you can pay me later.
Get away with that.
The 10 martyrs during the Roman persecutions. Shoshana, we read about it twice. In the Yom Kippur davening and the Tisha B'Av Lamentations. There we read the account of the 10 martyrs during the Yom Kippur service, and also during the Tisha B'Av Lamentations. But if you check, there's only 9 there. They're a typo. The Ariach Kodesh points out, if they are the 10 martyrs for the 10 sons of Joseph, 10 brothers of Yosef, why does the account in the Yom Kippur davening in the Tisha B'Av Lamentations only mention what? 9. Fasten your seatbelts. Says the Ari. To answer this question, look at the Gemara Avodah Zarah, where it gives the account of the 10 martyrs. They were taken out to be murdered. Rabbi Eliezer HaGadol was spared at the last minute. Avodah Zarah, page 3. You can look it up. They were taken out to be murdered. The last minute, the judge gave a reprieve to Rabbi Eliezer HaGadol, the great sage, teacher of Rabbi Akiva. He was spared by the Roman judge. Even though he was condemned, Avi, with the other 9, Gemara Avodah Zarah says he was spared at the last moment. Why is that important? Says the Ari. Buddy, Rabbi Eliezer HaGadol was a Gilgal of whom? Each of the 10 sages was a Gilgal of whom?
One of the brothers.
Each of the 10 martyrs was a Gilgal of one of the 10 brothers. Who was Rabbi Eliezer HaGadol a Gilgal of? Reuven. Maybe Yosef. Yosef didn't sell himself. Get real. Hello. Yosef didn't sell himself. The Ariach Kodesh says, Yiddish Chaim, that Rabbi Eliezer HaGadol was a Gilgal of Reuven. Reuven was not by the sale. Remember, he came back to the pit. He says, what happened? Reuven was not by the sale. So therefore, says the Ariach Kodesh, Rabbi Eliezer HaGadol was a Gilgal of Reuven. And therefore, even though he was condemned with the other 9, he was what? Spared. Because Reuven was not involved in the Mechirah. But Rabbi Eliezer HaGadol, he was spared. By the end of his life, the rabbis put him in Cherem. Do you know that?
No.
You know that? Look at Baba Metzia, page 59. Rabbi Eliezer HaGadol, the great sage, he had a dispute with the rabbis about a halachic issue, and he said, if I'm right, let God himself testify that I'm right. A voice came out and said, hey, you guys, the halacha follows Rabbi Eliezer HaGadol. You know what the rabbi said? Don't mix in. Don't mix in, God. Tractate Baba Metzia, page 59, Aryeh. The rabbis outvoted God. You could look it up. Loi b'shamayim hi.
Good question, God.
Achrei rabim lahatot. Elisha, you sitting down. Rabbi Eliezer HaGadol said, if I'm right, the halachic issue, let God himself testify. A heavenly voice came out and said, the halach is like my son Eliezer. And the rabbi said, God, don't mix in. You gave us the Torah. Deuteronomy tells us, Loi b'shamayim hi. The Torah is no longer decided in heaven. We decide. The rabbis outvoted God.
Wow.
Rabbi Eliezer HaGadol should have known better. He knows that Achrei Rabim Lahatot, that majority rules. Halach is decided here. He had no right, Chanukah, to do what he did. And the rabbis put him in Cherem.
What did he do?
He called God Almighty to testify the halacha follows him. Shouldn't have done that.
Need to witness.
No, because Loi b'shamayim hi beryl. Once God gave us the Torah, halacha is decided down here. He shouldn't have done that. And because he did that, the rabbis put him in Cherem.
Were they right to put him in Cherem?
They put him in Cherem. The Ariach Kodesh says, why did this great sage deserve to be put to Cherem? Are you sitting down, Lechama? Are you sitting down? Says the Ariach Kodesh. The brothers, the Medrash says, the brothers made a Cherem not to tell anybody, to their father, that Yosef is really alive. Reuven should not have gone along with the Cherem. Because he did Mida Keneged Mida, he was put in Cherem. David's fighting. What goes around, comes around. He wasn't by the sale. He tried to save Yosef's life. But why do you accept the brother's Cherem? Go to your father and say, Yosef is alive. You accepted the Cherem, not to tell your father. So centuries later, what happened? He was put in the Cherem, this great sage.
What happened?
Mida Keneged Mida. He wasn't executed because he wasn't involved in the sale, but he was a Gilgal of Reuben. Reuben accepted the brother's Cherem to cause anguish to the father, so he had this terrible anguish that at the end of his life, he was put in the Cherem by his colleagues.
Well, what happened to the rabbis who put him in the Cherem? What happened to those rabbis?
I don't know. I guess they had a right to do it. Because you can't call God to be your witness in a halachic matter. He should have known better, a great sage like that.
But you know, they have like, okay.
Lo b'shemayim he. The Torah is now decided by us.
Yeah, but wait. We have to decide-
Can you outvote God?
Wait.
Jews have a lot of chutzpah, right?
Wait.
Jews have a lot of chutzpah, Chaim.
Okay, but Rabbi, okay.
And the Talmud, Bava Metzia, goes on. One of the rabbis who outvoted God had a visit from Eliyahu Hanavi. Talmud tells a story. And he says, was God angry with us? He says, God was smiling. He said, Nitzchini bonai, Nitzchuni bonai. What does that mean?
My children
have outsmarted me like a proud papa. Hanoch. Like a proud papa. My children have outsmarted me. Kaviyochol. Says the Marshal, what's it all about? God was testing them. Of course God doesn't decide halacha. He came to Rabbi Eliezer Gadol's defense for his covenant, the great rabbi. But God was testing the rabbis. Where's your backbone? Will you realize it's only a test? That once God gave us the Torah, He no longer decides halacha lidu? And the rabbis passed the test with flying colors, like a parent gives a child a test. And He's proud of us, that we didn't cave in. We stood by the principles, loy v'shamayim hi, and achrei rabim lahatot. God told us in Exodus and Deuteronomy that majority rules in Judaism, and the Torah is no longer decided by God once He gave it to us. What are you made of? Will you cave in, or will you stand by your guns, stick by your guns? And therefore the rabbis, God was proud of the rabbis, like a proud papa, that my children have passed the test that I did for them.
What about the 10 spies who came back with a bad report?
Now, talk about 10 spies. Talk about the 10 martyrs now. Don't mix me up. Okay, we'll talk about the 10 martyrs now. So they were a Gilgal of the 10 brothers, and therefore Eliezer HaGadol is a Gilgal of Ruvain, so he wasn't executed, but he was put in Cherem because of what? Mida Keneged Mida. Okay? Nechama, you had a question?
Yeah, this is, okay, but if you're dealing with the contemporary time,
That's what we're dealing with.
then you're dealing not just today, but
Right.
that time, then what you're saying is, we have Bechir Chashis.
Right.
Remember when the rabbis calculated the calendar that Yom Kippur falls out on
Right.
Monday?
And even though Yeshua, he voted against them, the majority rules.
Okay, so
The majority opinion in halacha rules.
Okay, so he capitulated.
Right.
And on Yom Kippur, he came and he ate in front of all of the rabbis, so they should know.
And he accepted the majority. In Judaism, Exodus, Parshas Mishpatim tells us, Achrei Rabim Lahatot.
Okay, oh, I don't want to take up your time. I'm just telling you that.
Your
if you look
halacha-
at it in historical context.
Halacha is...
That for all you know, that these rabbis, look at the doom and gloom that came. The Beis Hamikdash is destroyed. Maybe
You're blaming the rabbis for that.
That's not the point. You're talking about who's right. You're talking about who's right.
Halacha, who's right? Majority rules.
But you see, in historical context, we've had very bad outcomes.
Well,
Not because of that.
what's got to do with that?
Sinat Chinam.
Halacha is decided by majority, Avi. Achrei Rabim Lahatot, Nechama. Parshas Mishpatim says, when rabbis dispute, Achrei Rabim Lahatot, you can't call down God as a witness. You should have known better. God was testing the rabbis and they passed. They didn't cave in. They stuck with what they knew was right. That halacha is decided by majority of rabbis down here on earth. Deuteronomy 29, Lo b'shamayim hi. The Torah is no longer what? Decided by God. We're his partners. Yes?
Okay, first of all, the brothers conducted a court of law.
Yeah.
They condemned.
I think it was a kangaroo court.
Okay, but that's the law. So then the Reuben has to go along with the law. That's what you just said. You got to go along with the law. So you got to go.
A corrupt law?
Yeah, even if the judges make a mistake, we got to go along with the judges.
But you know it's appeal.
That's not true.
Your question
Deserves an answer.
was asked by a bishop to Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz. The bishop asked Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz, your Torah says, Acharabim Lahatot, majority rules. Most of the world worships J.C. Penney. So why are you Jews so stubborn? Aryeh thought he got me, right? Baruch Hashem, I'm prepared, Aryeh.
That's a different world.
The bishop asked the same type of question. Torah says, Achrei Rabim Lahatot. The majority of the world worships J.C. Penney. Why are you Jews so stubborn? Don't you follow your own Torah? Yonasan Eibeshitz says, okay, bishop, let's go to the text. I'm a text man. He went to the text. Aryeh, you can look it up when you get home. In Parshas Mishpatim. Parshas Mishpatim. Okay. Susa. Achrei Rabim. Yes. It's in Mishpatim, Exodus 23. Exodus, Baruch Hashem, I took my spirulina this morning, Baruch Hashem. Exodus 23, Pasuk 2. It says, Achrei Rabim Lahatot. Follow the majority.
Majority of what, though?
Says Rabbi Yonasan, but look at the beginning of the Pasuk. Lo itia achar Rabim laraot. Hey, bishop, look at the beginning of the verse. It says, Lo itia achrei Rabim laraot. Don't follow majority for evil. Selling your brother, condemning him with a kangaroo court, worshipping a dead Jew instead of the living God. That's evil. Loitia achar Rabim laraot. Exodus 23:2, Shoshana. You understand? I said, bishop, you can't read Hebrew. Don't follow a majority laraot. Selling a brother, condemning him to a kangaroo court, that's evil. What right do you have to join that kangaroo court, Ruvain? Get out.
That's right.
Worshipping a dead Jew instead of a living God is the worst evil. Don't follow the Rabim Laraot.
Right, but look,
Nechama.
okay, but during the Nazi period,
Yeah.
there were so many rabbis
Yeah.
who said, you can't leave Europe, your kids will become violent. And why is it if kosher is kosher and trade is trade, they used to say even the doorknobs, and I know, even the doorknobs in America are trade. Well, kosher is kosher and trade is trade. And if it was
The Gemara in
more
Gittin,
then it's trade.
your question is dealt with the Gemara in Gittin. Took my spirulina, Baruch Hashem. The Gemara in Gittin asked your question. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, Vespasian says,
You can have a choice.
you can have whatever you
Anything
want. Whatever you want, I'll grant you. Yochanan ben Zakkai asked for Yavna. Says Rabbi Akiva, what's with you? You spare Jerusalem, spare the Holy Temple. So Rabbi Akiva says when God wants to punish the Jewish people, he puts a juke in the head of the leaders. He fadreis them a cup. Rabbi Akiva said that. Vespasian, the Gemara in Gittin, 57, Aryeh, the great Vespasian says, "Oh, great Yochanan Zakkai, I'll grant you anything. Why not ask for Pisgat Zev, Jerusalem and the temple?" So Rabbi Kiva says, Nebuch, when God wants to punish the Jewish people, He makes their leaders verstop the cup.
That's
So
what
the
we have
leaders in
now.
Europe told the Yidden, don't leave. Verstop the cup. How do you say that in English?
Yeah.
A juke in the Rosh. Rabbi Kiva, the great Yochanan Zakkai. You couldn't ask for Jerusalem and the temple? That's part of the punishment. We get the leadership that we deserve.
Right.
Nebuch.
But he was doing Ratzon Hashem.
That's why they don't have a clue now.
Person has free will. Rabbi Kiva puts him down. Very bad. On his deathbed, he cried bitter tears.
Did he do the
They
right
asked
thing?
him, Talmidim, what are you crying? The head of the Sanhedrin, the great chief rabbi of Israel, why are you crying? He says, I have two roads in front of me. Maybe I'm going to hell. Why was he, this great chief rabbi, Sanhedrin, teacher of Klal Yisrael, why was he crying? He's afraid he's going to go to hell. Why are you?
Whether he made
Says the
right choice.
Marshal, because he was afraid he made the wrong choice.
You know,
I should have asked for Pisgat Zev. I mean Jerusalem, the temple. Perhaps I'm going to go to hell for that. I got the juke in the Rosh. So on his deathbed he cried bitter tears, L'chamoch, the great chief rabbi of Israel. Maybe I'm going to hell, he said. Haunted by that.
Was his decision political, or it seen as
What?
as because he was concerned about the Romans?
He thought to fast the Meruba loy to fast. If you ask for too much, you might get nothing. But God put that in his head, but still has free will. That's the great mystery. How my free will and God's free will, what?
Work together.
Mesh. And the moshel is, like Arya Kaplan Zatal says, we're playing chess with the Grand Master. We have free will, but the Grand Master somehow controls the game. But we're still responsible. So he had a right to be nervous. The great chief rabbi in his deathbed, crying bitter tears.
well, look, just when the Sanhedrin looked, there were two people who felt it was wrong to hand over your J.C. Penney to the Romans. So that was a minority view.
What are you talking about?
That
What
was
are
a
you talking
minority view. There were two
What are you
people
talking about? J.C.
that-
Penney to the
No, you
Romans.
talk about
We didn't hand over J.C. Penney to the Romans.
Sanhedrin killed him.
You're missing Kasha Varnikish.
There were two people who
We
said
didn't hand
no.
over J.C. Penney to the Romans. We didn't hand. No.
How do you think it ended up there?
Sanhedrin killed him.
Look at Sanhedrin 43, Aryeh. Get the uncensored version. I hope this is not being on tape. Sanhedrin 43, the uncensored version. Get a Steinsaltz Gemara, Sanhedrin Daf Mem Gimel, the uncensored, where it said the Sanhedrin executed J.C. Penney for being Mesis of Mediach. Mesis of Mediach Chayiv Mitah. So the Sanhedrin put him to death.
For what? What does that mean?
Seducer. How do you say in English? Mesis of Mediach. A seducer and insider away from the Jewish religion. So the Sanhedrin condemned him to death. That Gemara has been censored out because it's not good for us. But Steinsaltz put it back in.
What does he say?
Steinsaltz, get a Steinsaltz Gemara, Sanhedrin 43. We didn't hand him over to anybody. The Jewish court judged him. He was condemned to be a Mesis of Mediach.
But there were two who said that's not right to do.
I don't know. We follow the
So
majority
that's the
rule.
minority view.
Majority, Sanhedrin condemned him to death, and the real issue is that we did put him to death for being a Mesis of Mediach.
Rabbi Sprecher,
Yes.
explain that a little more.
Yeah, but we don't
People away
crucify.
from the true Yiddishkeit?
That's right. He seduced people away from Judaism
But wait a
by
minute.
coming up with a new religion.
Wait.
So that's a capital punishment in Jewish law.
Okay.
It's called Mesis of Mediach.
Yeah, but
I think it's called incite.
Yeah, but,
Incite, seducing away from the Jewish religion.
Okay.
That's a capital punishment.
but we don't crucify. How come he has that kind?
1 minute. We don't crucify. If you look in Parshas Kitetse, okay, you're forcing me to go.
Making him work.
In Jewish law, nobody is put on the T, only after death. Do you know that? Look in Devarim 21, Pasuk Chav Bet. D'chiyeh b'ish chet mishpat maves, v'telisa oto al eitz. Says Onkelos, v'titzla v'yosa al tzaliva. Hope this is not being recorded. V'titzla v'yosa al tzaliva. What does tzaliva mean? A cross. Devarim 21, Pasuk 22. When a person is executed in Jewish law, the dead body is put up al tzaliva.
After he's dead.
After he's dead, the dead body is hung up in a cross position.
Why?
Not alive,
Why?
because the Torah says so.
Not tortured.
Right? You didn't know that, right, Shani? You got to look at it. You won't find this in Art Scroll. You won't find this in Art Scroll. If you go to Uncle Onkelos, Devarim 21, Pasuk 22, which says, when a person is put to death by the Jewish court, you shall hang up his body al eitz. Al eitz, says Onkelos, v'titzloi v'yosa al tzaliva. You know Hebrew. V'titzloi, you shall hang him up in the cross position.
Oh.
In Jewish law, when a person was executed by the court, the dead body was hung up in a cross position, but only after he's dead, never alive.
How did they execute?
Never alive. They stoned him to death.
Stoning.
The dead body, after it was stoned,
Why?
was hung up in a cross position. Why? Because the Torah says so.
No, that's not.
Why?
I thought the Romans.
No wonder
The Romans got it from us.
Why did we?
But I hope it's not being recorded. But they perverted it, and they put up a live victim.
Thousands.
In Jewish law, it was only a condemned prisoner. After he was stoned to death, the body was hung up.
Why?
The Romans perverted it, and they even did live people. But that's a perversion of Jewish law. So Shoshana is asking why. So the Talmud says that it ain't over till it's over. A person that was stoned to death for blasphemy or for Meses and Medea, his sin is so heinous that even the death sentence didn't atone completely. The body has to be hung up in such a degrading position. That's additional anguish to the neshama. The neshama needs that additional anguish in order to what? Expiate, what's the word?
Expedite.
Expedite the sin.
Now it's expiation of the
Expiation.
For how long?
For a very short time.
This for
The body is hung up just until sundown. Just till sundown.
Very before
Just a
dark.
few hours until
Just a
sundown.
few hours. In fact, less than that. The body was hung up right before sundown and
then
taken down
before
immediately.
dark.
What, for an hour?
Immediately. For a short time. The neshama needs the additional anguish to get its kapara, Aryeh. It ain't over till it's over.
Oh, wow.
To see the body in such a disgraceful position is additional anguish for the neshama, and that David completes what? The kapara. Thank you very much.
Wow.